Alright guys, big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta, and today we have a guest. We have a little bit of a tournament talk and a deck profile. So first of all, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, this is the first time I've been featured in this channel. I would like to thank the boy for giving me this opportunity to be featured in this channel, and I hope I can share with you a little bit of insight of what I've gone through over the last weekend for the Malaysian Regional BSF 2022 premium format in specific for this video.
Yeah, so you were able to get to the top 4 with your team playing Spike Brothers in premium.
Yes, correct. I'm quite shocked with the result also, but I can proudly say that I'm one of the player that carried my team, because in Malaysia the premium format usually it focuses around the Kuala Lumpur central region and also the southern region in Johor. So more or less we know and we already expect what the opponent will use. And I specifically came out with this deck design in order to cater to that particular landscape of the premium community in Malaysia.
Alright, sounds good. So before we talk more about the tournament, let's first talk about the deck, because I think that most guys, when they saw Spike Brothers got in the top 4, they were actually very interested on the deck. So show us the deck, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about some choices and go back and talk about like a little bit of how the format went and how the deck performed in the format. So tell us about the deck. Show it to us.
Okay, thank you, D-Boy. So this is my G-Zone, which I will explain later. So I have the B starter. The reason I use this is very simple, because of the extra draw and also quick shield if I'm going second. And I'm also be running the Grade 3 Searcher, all 4 of them. So it's very crucial for me to have the quick shield in order to discard if I'm able to fetch a Grade 3 from my deck. Okay, my ratio is actually 10 Grade 1, okay, 12 Grade 2, and also 11 Grade 3. Okay, the reason for my ratio I will explain later. So before I talk about the grades, let's talk about the trigger first. I play the Dark State over trigger. The reason is because of very simple. I considered to play the Grey Elemental over trigger, but it does not suit my deck, because at the end of the Vanguard battle, the front row will actually be retired, because I will call over this that end dragger to the front row, replacing that particular unit in the front row. So that if let's say I check the over trigger as a drive check, then I will not be able to pass it to the front row already. Okay. Next, I'm running 3 of the strike fodder crit. This is very simple because of the shield value and also as a strike fodder. Okay, the reason why I play 3 is because of this guy, Mecha Instructor. I need to play 4 because of the combo that I had with some of my Grade 3, which is Pet and Dragon. I will explain to that later. As usual, I play the draw PG. This is to counter any high-powered Vanguard-centric deck. And also, I play the Hill Guardian. The reason why I play the Hill Guardian is because of the current meta is very fast-paced. So if I were to play the Dudley Heal or the 20k heal, it will not serve as a defensive option for my deck, because I need to survive in the stages before the strike, before I can do my offensive turn. Also bear in mind, the Grade 3 Searcher are able to fetch this Hill Guardian. So it's quite useful for this deck at least. Okay, next I'm playing 10 of Grade 1s. I play all 4 of these Acrobat Verdi, the Grade 3 Searcher, and I play 4 of this Ambush Dexter. Okay, and I play two of these Commander Gary Cannon. This is mainly just further to complete the grade 1 lineup because I can draw on it, and at the same time I can fill in my soul for my strike turn. Okay, ambush texture is there basically to try to full my field at the offensive turn because it can fetch my grade 2s and also sometimes it can fetch my grade 3s. Okay, and the reason why I play 4 of Acrobat Birdie is because I need to have all my grade 3 in line before I go for my offensive turn. This is very crucial for this deck because if you wrongly write in during your first grade 3 line, then the offensive turn during the first strike will not be so deadly. Next, I play a combo of 12 actually, 12 grade 2. Okay, this. Okay, Rona is actually my main grade 2 right because on place I can counter blast 1 and find 1 grade 3 to extend one of my attack without committing my hand. So this is very crucial for my grade 2 turn to push damage so that when I strike I can able to finish my opponent without dragging the game any longer. While Bridge Spurt, this is basically for cards that have been discarded. If you want to cycle them back into your deck, then you have this. This is also a good option to get rid away of all the interceptors, including the Hanzo mechanic decoy token at the back row. Okay, the reason why I play these two new promo, Cheer Girl Fiona, this is because of the current meta Nightmare Doll. By placing this on Guardian Circle, I'm able to Soul Blast 1 and stop any auto abilities to be paid. So I can stop Alice combo just by paying this ability. And if I want to use this as an offensive way, also can. I just Soul Blast 1 and I'll just assign it to one of my unit to make it more bigger. But bear in mind, do not assign this to this Bridge Spurt because Bridge Spurt ability does require a cost to be paid. If you use this to this guy, then you will not be able to use this guy to cycle and draw later on. And Agile Fullback. Agile Fullback is actually the MVP of this grade 2. The main reason is because I always try to make sure I get this at my grade 2 turn, aside from my right target. Then I can place this at the back of my grade 2 Vanguard, and opponent will, most of the time will be surprised that this unit will be able to attack from back row. So they miscalculated or they were taken by surprise when I assign attack of this particular unit. And next turn, if let's say I'm the one that strike first, I can just put it into the soul and filter my deck. And the new target will be called as a 20k base. Okay. Okay, next we go to the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3 lineup, I play 4 Rising Nova. This deck does not revolve around Rising Nova. The only reason why I play 4 of this guy is because of few things. Number 1, I need the 2 force during my killing turn. The force 2 and force 1 is very crucial when I strike my main strike. And number 2, if let's say I'm the one that go first during that game, I can use this Rising Nova to be an offensive grade 3 turn. I can use this and then try to call Blue and copy Blue Spike ability to pass all the markers for an offensive grade 2 turn. Usually my grade 3 turns, okay? So Rising Nova will Soul Blast 1 and copy Blue Spike. So I will place 1 marker over here. Okay, then whatever that I Soul Blast, I will go using Bridge Spurt back to the deck and then top up back my soul and then draw 1. After that, I pass to behind, then pass to Rising Nova, and lastly to Bull Spike. So that constitute 1, 2, 3, 4 attacks during my first grade 3 turn. And the opponent will be very hard to guard it if they want to make sure that their hand is healthy enough for their offensive turn. Okay, bear in mind that Rising Nova copying spike will also make me draw an extra card should the attack doesn't hit once during that particular turn. Okay, so that's it about Rising Nova. The only reason is actually to do an offensive grade 3 turn and also to gain the 2 force. Okay, then we go to the next 2 unit of grade 3. Okay, Backhand Dragger is where the deck revolves around it. So this is a underdog unit to my experience because people doesn't expect me to play this card. Okay, the reason why I play this aside from the OG Backhand Dragger, okay, because number one, this can extend the combo. Once you ride upon this, you can call it to any front row, and then you can extend your multi-attacks. And secondly, you can have the break right ability to retire any column that it was called upon by the break right ability. And then this is a high powered attack because by activating the skill, it have an additional 5k 1 crit. So it's very hard for the opponent, either they take 3 damage or they need to guard it. Bull Spike is more of a utility because usually I will use Good End Dragger as my first strike and I intend to finish the opponent during my first strike. So after Bad End Dragger ability resolve, I counter blast and put a card in soul. I retire this unit and then I find 2 grade 3. The 2 grade 3 usually I will find 1 Rising Nova because I want to give a Force 2 and Force 1 marker, and then followed by a Bull Spike because I want to use the ability, the Bull Spike. But bear in mind, in order for me to do this combo, I need to have all my fields full. So that's why I have this card like Ambush Dexter, Agile Fullback, and Rona. So usually what happens is I call Rona. So Rona will call 1 grade 3, and then I call Ambush Dexter, use Rona as a cost, and then search for any other 2 grade 2. Usually I either call this, or maybe another Rona. So by doing this, okay, let's see. Okay. By doing this, my field is full already, and I'm able to execute the Good End Dragger combo. Okay. Bear in mind also when you first attack with this strike turn, if let's say you call Bridge Spurt, when you attack with Bridge Spurt first, you cannot activate the ability because once you activate the ability, put it into soul and then you draw a card. But you now have 1 open circle which doesn't serve the Good End Dragger combo. Okay, if you have 1 open circle, you cannot write 2 grade 2 later on. So bear in mind on that. So if let's say this is my killing turn, what I will do usually, let's say I just put up this unit. Okay, put this instead. So I sold +1 to give let's say 10k over here. So this is becoming 30k already. So I attack this first, then I attack here. Then the third attack will be the Vanguard attack. I will not usually attack with this because I want to assign any triggers over here. So once the attack has resolved, pay the cost, retire this, and then find 2 grade 2. Depending on the situation, the first grade 3 I must find is Bull Spike. This is a must. But the second grade 3, it can be either this or this, depending on what kind of force is available on my field already. If let's say I strike second in the game, usually my first right grade 3 is already Rising Nova. Then during my first strike turn, I ride on Bad End Dragger. So on my field is already have Force 1 and Force 2 marker. So by resolving Good End skill, I will just call Bad End Dragger and Bull Spike. So I will write Bad End Dragger first, triggering the first Black and Dragger break right, here like this, and then I write Black and Dragger, then only I write Bull Spike again at the new Black and Dragger, causing the break right to trigger again. So now I refresh back my front row. So if you see after the Vanguard attack, I have the Bull Spike ability to pass the marker, and at the same time, I have 1, 2, 3, 3 more attacks. If let's say, I just take one example, this is one of the unit on the board. If I take, I attack here, and then I pay the cost to pass the marker over here, and I attack using the second Bat and Dagger, use the cost to return this to the back of the deck, then I can refresh back one more column, okay, to extend my attacks. So this is the purpose of the deck, continuously attacking until the opponent has finished the hand or they are already at 6 damage. So I don't intend to hold the game after the first strike. I usually will try to get a killing blow on the first strike itself. Next, we go on to the G zone. As you know, G zone is usually what we call as our side deck. It depends on what is the situation for us to enable our strike. So this is my G zone, the offensive G zone first. My main unit is always Good End Dragger. Good End Dragger is my killing blow. If let's say the situation allows for it, then I will also strike in Villain Verminous. But in order for me to do this, I must have plenty of soul. So I can do that either by using Dexter or using Bridgeport or using Agile's ability, cycling ability to fill in my soul. Okay. I tag in one Godly Speed Flash Bruise, mainly because this card doesn't need any CB to work. If let's say my opponent tries to deny my damage by not giving me any resources, then I can just strike this, or I can either strike Merindo also. Dust is actually a tech card. If let's say I want to finish the game and I know the opponent has a lot of heal their hand. So by striding Dust, I'm denying their G-Guard and also I'm forcing them to hard cut from their hand. Okay, Formido is the only card that I have, not only card, but it's one of the cards that I have in my strike that allows me to control the board by retiring unit and also soul charge. Okay, Violent Ace is more of a utility if let's say I need the draw, and it's also actually an attack extender should your opponent's guardian becomes 2 or more. Yep. And lastly, I tag in one GBA just in case the game got dragged until the GBA turn. But luckily, all my 9 games do not require me to strike this GBA. Okay, so we go on for the defensive G zone. I tag in one dismal just in case I want to protect my unit. Okay, I put in Terrible Linus for the shield value, but I don't use it at all actually during the tournament. My main my main Giga is actually this Hackathon guys, because I need at some of the time I need to cycle back my drop zone into the deck. Most of the time, either I run out from Boost Spike or sometimes a Back End Dragger or any agile fullback that I need to put back in the deck in order to continue the combo on the next turn. This is where Hackathon Gaze comes in. Okay, he's able to cycle and the shield value is not bad also. Okay, so that's it about my deck profile. The boy, do you have any question on it?
I would not say questions, but I have to add some small stuff. So as you saw, the deck of course runs around having the first stride, which is Good End. There is something that is important when it comes to Good End. It's not the only card in Spike, but Spike sometimes attempt to change the rules a little bit. So for you that don't understand how Good End skill works, Good End skill basically says At the end of the battle, counter +1, put a card from your hand into the soul and call 2 grade 3s to an open rearguard circle. If you don't have an open rearguard circle, you ride those units. That doesn't state on the card, but that's when we asked Bushiroad, we said, what happens to the grade 3s? Do they go to soul? Do they go to drop zone? Bushiroad said no, they have to come on field, and if you don't have open rearguard circles, they basically come on the Vanguard. So you ride them, first this one, then the other. So there are some important things that happen at that time. As our guest already explained, you have different choices that you could make. One of the choices while building the deck is the old Badan Dragger versus the new Badan Dragger. Although the old Badan Dragger gives you a 10k to every attacking unit, the new Badan Dragger gives you a marker, and because you move the marker with the Bull Spike ability, it's the same thing. But during all other turns, the new Badan Dragger becomes better, and also while calling it from your soul, as you already have explained, it becomes better. You already explained very well how the choices goes between the Badan Dragger and the Bull Spike, or Rising and the Bull Spike. As he said, it depends on the opponent damage, and it also depends on if you already have Force 2 or not. So the deck looks actually very simple, but there are some small choices that you could make that could make a big difference throughout the game. Then, then when we go to the deck in general, the deck has a very strong factor into it, which is the surprise factor. Your opponent doesn't know how many attacks you could make because he doesn't know what you're going to do. So Good End Dragger is a very good stride because it's very flexible. You could use cards like Dexter and cards like your Stand Trigger Instructor. You could even call back a Dexter and you could make a double grade 2 and you could attack again from the back row and have another unit in the front row. If you have enough counterblasters, you could make your Agile fullback into a Rona and an Agile fullback, and the Rona could call yet another grade 3. You could go crazy with the deck. So many possibilities depending on how many counterblasters you have, what cards you have left in your deck, how many damage your opponent has. So many options. The deck needs lots of skill to be played, and the deck will become even better with the upcoming stride when we come to the premium collection. Because
I cannot wait for that.
yeah, because it's very interesting that you played this deck, because I have been testing with the new stride, and the deck that I've came up with is of course fully aggro deck, and I also calculated the need of the Badan Dragger in the deck, because what Badan Dragger could give you lots of force markers, he also gives you a little bit of soul depending on what you bind and call if you have lots of instructors. Although you lose the soul with the skill of Bull Spike, but you still sometimes finish up your field with like 3 or 4 soul, and from that moment on, if you ride the next turn into Vermios, you still have a very strong turn. So yeah, I think it's a very good choice to go with this deck in this format. It's very explosive. It has good defensive options, but it's very strong. Even your first grade 3 turn could be very explosive. Now back to the tournament. So we talked about the deck. I think that if you guys want to know more, we have to do a separate video to talk about the combos, to talk about maybe to show how the deck works like in a game. But now to go back to the tournament. So how did you experience the tournament? How many players were there? How was your matchups? Like, did you have trouble against certain decks, or in general it went well? Tell us also about your teammates. What did they play?
I believe it went well, at least for me, because the match that I lost are mostly all those meta clans. I lost to one Genesis Regalia deck, but it was quite a thin loss because I almost win. Actually, he already managed to got my strike offensive turn, but he doesn't have any hand. Luckily for him, when he draw at the beginning of his turn, he draw a grade 3, not grade 3. He draw a crit strike folder. So he's able to strike into this one unit that able to finish me because his Vanguard can withstand. And then I also lost to one Mega Colony, which I have not quite experience to play against because not much of my community plays Mega Colony. Specifically, that guy is playing Ordercolony. I tried to stick to a grade 2 turn because I want to strike first, but unluckily, he managed to push damage and drive check a crit, so forcing me to ride my grade 3, and then from there he just tried Redora and finished me. One more loss is actually Nubatama. That was a very high roll luck from my opponent's side because during the turn where he struck Jakumesu, his Vanguard is a 27k with one additional crit, and then he checked OT on that Jakumesu. So I'm not able to guard everything. Then I just take damage until I lost. But if I were to win that, I believe my teammate won. One of my teammates won. So that particular match was the match that decides the third and fourth placing. So it's very unlucky for me, but that is how the way it is. I'm not complaining anything. But the rest of the match is quite pleasant for me. Like I said, because this deck is quite unique, there's a lot of way to try to play the deck. Most of the time, I finish my opponent with a good end strike. But there are times where I finish my opponent with Villain Verminius because I calculated this particular one game. My opponent was using Big Belly. So at the end of his strike turn, he's able to fetch his end quite a lot. And at the same time, coming to my turn, my soul somehow is quite thick already. So I choose to strike Villain Verminius and just do an endless loop of combo until he lost his hand and take the last 2 damage. So yeah, my personal record during BSF is 6 win and 3 loss. Actually not 6, 7 win. 7 win and 3 loss. One of the win is actually a bye. So yeah, that's my record.
Right, sounds good. I think we as a community should be very proud. You took a deck that I would call a dark horse. It's as I said, a difficult deck to pilot. You need to know the deck quite well, and sometimes you also need to explain to your opponent what's happening. Sometimes the judge will come in to have to explain as well how good end skill work. So you have some situations where the explanation is needed. When it comes to the Mega Colony matchup, for all of the Spike players out there are different ways you could go about it. The way is in our G zone. We have 2 strikes in our G zone that call from hand. One of them being Fermios and one of them being Violence Ace. Some people actually forget that we could multi-attack even against Gredora. Of course, you could not use cards like Instructor to bind and call. You could not use those kind of abilities, but you could still pressure them a lot in the early game and put as much cards into your soul as you can. So use your counterbalances for your ambush Dexter, go all out, hit them hard, and go to that grade 3 turn first and just kill them with Bull Spike. And then you will see that they will go to that 4 or 5 damage range, and they will still be able to draw some cards because they play Ordercolony, but when they hit you back, they will not kill you that turn most of the time. And then you will have the one moment in the game that you will able to finish them off, and that's because Fermios is not GB restricted. It doesn't need GB2, it doesn't need GB3. Just hit them with that stride and calculate the amount of soul that you have. So do not use too much with your Bull Spike. But sometimes if you think you could kill them, go ahead, do it. But just ride again into another rising if you have. Create 2 force 1s on one circle. So you have 2 force 1s and 1 force 2 and 1 force 2 in the other circle, just so you know they could not take that attack. If they are on 5 damage, it doesn't matter, you'll be able to kill them. So that's one of the ways we could go about the mega colony, but I think we could talk about that in a whole another video. For now, I would like to congrats you and your team on taking fourth place. I still think that it's really good and amazing done by you and your team. Remember, guys, when you play these kind of tournaments, it all depends on the team. Even if one player doesn't do well, he is still a part of the team. He's still part of the experience. He joined you. He helped the team. So it's all a team effort, and it's amazing to see Spike in the top 8 and then in the top 4. And hopefully next time we will see you with a medal on the podium and we'll be able to cheer for you and your team. So that's amazing. All right.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words for everybody's watching this video, or maybe people that try to change the deck or play the deck, even with the upcoming Stride? As I said, the deck will be played even more. Do you have any advice or anything to say?
I'm not a veteran in Spike Brother. I've always been a fan of Spike Brother, but I believe there are more experts out there. But what I can say about the future for Spike Brother, by releasing the recent reveal for Premium Collection 2022, I believe it opens up to a lot of possibility for Spike Brothers, because we do not have a good first strike at the moment. We depend on Agrias previously, but Agrias is restricted to 1 CB, and also there's not much offensive power of Agrias. But this Lawless King, Galigabarus, is opens to a very big play for Spike Brother. Either you want to play a very aggressive deck, or you still want to stick to the GB8. Both playstyle also can use this Galigabarus. So it's up to the deck builder. Spike Brother is a force clan, so it depends a lot of offensive rather than defensive. But doesn't mean that we can only stick to the aggro playstyle. The GB8 has been there in the premium landscape for quite a while, and I believe it will still be there even after the release of this Galigabarus. It's just that we need to know how to use the Galigabarus to try to gain as much hand as possible, without even relying it as a flip fodder. Bear in mind, Galigabarus doesn't flip, but he does give a lot of hand advantage for GB8 deck. So I do believe that Spike Brother has a potential to fight in the current meta. Not to say that it's a tier C or B, but I believe Spike is a tier A. The meta are all tier S, put it like that. So there's a potential for Spike to fight the current meta, even though we are at a disadvantage, but still we have some tech to play around it. And so far the release for Spikes has been quite okay. I'm quite satisfied for the Spike release for now.
Yep. If we talk about the new Stride for a little bit, of course, as you have already said, more decks will come into the light. We have seen the Greedon deck that could do well. It could not really use this Stride for its full potential, but the aggro decks, meaning the deck that uses good end or the deck that doesn't use good end, both decks will benefit the most. If we fall back and talk about the GB8 build, there are more ways to use the new Stride than only offensively. You could call a Honolly in the back row, and you could call a Fiona in the front row. Fiona's ability while intercepting will work as well, and the back row being, let's say, something like a Honolly, will also be able to stop your opponent for a little bit. So there are lots of defensive and offensive plays that you could play. But if I would give an advice to you guys, I would say go on the offensive, play aggro, play a very, very, very flexible deck, as the deck as you already have shown. Remember, the way to go about the deck is also, while you're playing lots of V cards, the base of the deck is very strong, as you have a good grade 2 turn, good grade 3 turn. When you go to your Stride, if you only call 2 instructors in the back row, you're basically good to go. You have so many options that you could do, and just go and explore the meta. Just play a kind of a V plus deck, go explore the meta, enjoy yourself, play Spike as it was supposed to be played, an offensive clan that doesn't wait for the opponent to give it counterblast or not. And that's what I like about the new Stride, is the name is lawless. He doesn't really care about the law. He's like, I will do whatever I like, and I like
Yes.
that. I like that. All right, so then we come to the end of the video. We'd like to thank you for joining us on the channel, and we'd like to thank you guys for watching the video. If you have any questions about the deck, you could always try to contact me or put a comment in the comment section below. I'll try to direct your question to the boy himself so he could explain it, or I could try to explain it myself. If you have any other questions about how the tournament went, the matchups, if you have questions about some certain matchups that you have troubles against, I've seen people ask about Genesis, like how to do about Genesis. Fiona is one of the cards that could stop their combo before it even begins if you choose the right timing. There are lots of defensive options in Spike that we could use for the best. So yeah, thank you all, and we'll see you the next time.
Bye bye.